So now we're a couple months into the year, and I'm sure a lot of people, myself included, have fallen off of our original New Year's resolutions. So today I'm going to be talking about values, and maybe we can use some of those values to create some refreshed New Year's resolutions. So stick around and let's talk about it. My name is Hannah, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and this is the Reflection Room. So I think it's fairly common for people to either not know how to verbalize their values or they mix them up with what goals should be. So they may list off one of their goals as a value, but they're two very different things. So I'm going to give you an example of one of my personal goals and where it came from as a value. One of my goals this year is to run a Spartan race in November. And I chose that goal. Then there's sub goals underneath that to get to running a Spartan race. Because right now, I definitely couldn't just go out there and run one because I would probably have some serious problems, but I have to train to get to that point. So that's a goal of mine. But that goal comes from a value, actually, a few values. So one value is I value my health. So I want to do things that make my body a little bit healthier. I also value pushing myself to grow, and doing a Spartan race is going to push me because I've never done one before, and training for that is different than just running or training for a 5K or a 10K. So this is something new to me that's also going to push me to grow. And I also value moving my body in ways that I enjoy, choosing different activities based on what I enjoy during that time of my life. It used to be spin classes, and now I'm switching it up a little. Those are three values that contributed to me making this goal for the year. Sometimes people might struggle trying to figure out what their values are or verbalize them and narrow them down. And there's one exercise that I use quite often with clients called the bullseye exercise, and it comes in the form of a worksheet. You can find it anywhere online, but I will link it in the bottom, and I'll also show you a little bit right here. So it comes in the form of a bullseye. It looks like a target if you were throwing darts or shooting at a target. And it's divided up into 4 sections. So there's relationships, leisure, personal growth or health, and work or education. And of course, you could make more areas of your life if you would like, but these kind of capture all of it. So on this bullseye, you're gonna go into these different sections of your life and put a dot or make a big circle on the ring going out to see where you feel like you align with your values. For example, personal growth and health. I would probably put that one in the middle right now because I'm working towards it, but maybe by the end of the year, it'll be closer to the middle. And you want the values to be as close to the middle as you can get. So then go to work and education. I feel pretty aligned with my values on that. So I'd probably put it in the bullseye or maybe the ring out of it. But if you feel like you don't align with your values at all, you put it towards the outside of the rings. Now, if your dots are further out, that means those are areas of your life that you'd want to work on. Because if your actions and your life does not align with your core values, then you're going to have some incongruence. You're going to have some cognitive dissonance going on. So your internal morals and values are not aligning with what you're doing in your life. Actually, I feel like I see this in relationships a lot, not just with clients or people in my life, but recently a lot on TV. I know in previous videos we talked about Nobody Wants This, the show on Netflix. And then recently, I've never seen it before until now, but the show Love is Blind. So this is a spoiler. If you haven't seen it for season 8, I'm going to spoil it for you. So skip it if you don't want me to spoil it for you. But in Love is Blind, Sarah and Ben, a couple that had met on the show and were at the altar getting married, when it was time to say I do or I will, Sarah called it off. She said she couldn't do it. So the reasons that she decided was because Ben was Christian and he valued his faith, and she valued LGBTQ community, and she didn't feel like those two could mesh. So her value was not lining up with his value in her eyes, and they could not work it out. I see on the other side when people do get married and their values don't line up, and it causes a lot of friction. Another example, like I said, nobody wants this. That's where the main characters, Joanne, she is unsure about her faith, maybe like agnostic, and he is a Jewish rabbi. He runs a temple, and they both have to make that decision if they're going to be able to make it work. But he's so involved in his religion, I personally don't think it's going to work out if they're not on the same page. Now, sometimes it can be okay if a couple doesn't exactly align, but I find that most often where it will work out if they're not very passionate about it. So, say for example, like two people that may have different political views, but they're not like super passionate about it, then they might be able to work it out and just avoid the topic. With friends, that happens a lot. So with friends, you can be okay if you don't align on everything values-wise. But in romantic relationships and marriages, you want to align on the hard topics, especially the ones that you're passionate about. Let's talk about dating a little bit more then. When you're dating someone, you can really tell what they value by what they prioritize. And you should do this with yourself too. If you value relationships, then you should prioritize relationships in your life. That means developing deeper friendships. Or if you're trying to prioritize a romantic relationship, sometimes you might have to say no to friends in order to prioritize that romantic relationship. And you can see a lot of this come out in dating where someone say, I really value honest and open communication. But then if they don't do it, then they may not be aware of it. They may have just said that, but you should really try to align yourself with your values. It's very important to talk about values when you're dating. And if you learn how to verbalize those and make concrete statements about your values, it'll be a lot easier to talk about. Say your dot on the bullseye is pretty far out in work and education. For example, maybe you're really passionate about helping people, but you work in corporate, like a corporation, and you don't feel like you get to talk to people one-on-one or help them in that way. Maybe there's different areas of your life that you could do that, where you could help people and get that sense of fulfillment from your value. If not, then maybe trying to aim at a different career. So learning what your values are can help you align your life more like those values. So maybe helping people, you could do that at church. You could do that serving other people. You could do that volunteering at a homeless shelter or an animal shelter. You could do that in different ways. And if you choose to do it that way instead of changing your career, that might fulfill that desire, that value that you have in your heart. So it doesn't always have to be a drastic change. But once you determine that helping people is a value of yours, then you can make goals to get there. So maybe it is to volunteer at church or at a homeless shelter. Then you can Google it, look it up, and set an actual goal for yourself. Maybe if it is a career change, you can look into careers that you feel confident in. You feel like you would love doing it, and you can make goals to get to that goal or to get to that value of helping people. So that's why it's so important to know your values before you set goals. Because if you're just setting random goals, maybe because you feel like that's what you're supposed to do, then it still may not feel fulfilling when you reach that finish line. You would do the whole thing and you work on it for months or weeks or however long it takes, and then you finally cross it off your list and you're like, meh, well, then it wasn't a value of yours. So determining your values for that is extremely important. Now that we're in mid-March for the year, so like I was saying earlier, one of my goals is to run a Spartan race because I want to move my body in ways that I enjoy. And a lot of people make a physical resolution at the beginning of the year, like going to the gym, but that's not specific. It's just going to the gym. So making SMART goals is really important here. And making goals that are attainable. That's the A in SMART. I chose this one because I do believe it's attainable for me. I think I could physically get there. I've run long distances before. Now I just need to add a little spin to it. But I think it's going to be fun because it's movement that I enjoy right now. So a lot of people chose to go to the gym. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't enjoy going to the gym and lifting weights or getting on the treadmill for a while, or Stairmaster, elliptical, if you don't enjoy that type of movement, then your resolution for the year is not going to last very long and it probably already fizzled out. So you have to choose movement that you're going to enjoy. And maybe that means trying out different types. You could get ClassPass instead of a gym membership and try different Pilates, bar, spin, yoga, try all the different classes and see what you enjoy. There's also a lot of community in that. I'm a big fan of group classes, but finding movement that you enjoy is going to make you love it even longer. So that's a big part of making goals. SMART goals. So if we go through what a SMART goal is, S is for specific. You want it to be on the calendar where you can mark down the days. You can see when it's going to happen, when that end goal is going to happen. And it's measurable. Again, you can measure how long it's going to take. You can measure how many days a week you need to work towards this goal. You can measure how long of a workout you need to do, going back to workouts, but it could be anything. It's attainable. You know that you can reach that goal. It's not some unrealistic expectation. Like for me, I'm 6 feet tall. So being 140 pounds is ridiculous. It's never going to happen. So that would be an unattainable goal for me. Not that I set goals on weight because I don't think that's healthy either, but just for an extreme example, that would be one of them. So it needs to be attainable. And for this Spartan race example, I believe that I can attain that level of fitness if I work hard enough on my specific goals to get there. And then R is realistic, obviously. It's the same thing as attainable, but it needs to be realistic. And then T is timely. So it needs to be on a time frame. You can't just say one day I want to own a house. That one's kind of tricky because the market and everything. But if you set a goal of I will save up this much of a down payment by this date, then that's pretty time you got a time frame there. You know you can save up that much in that amount of time if you budget correctly and you stick to that budget. It's a good goal to have to attain a house. It doesn't mean you might buy a house then, just because depending on the market and the situation, all of that. But at least you know you have that down payment ready at that time. So again, I'll go through them really quick. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. So those are how you set goals. And if you do that based on your values, then you're even better off because now you're doing it to something that aligns to your moral code and your life. It's what you value and what you want to take care of in your life. During this worksheet, you can go through and see where you're not aligning that much, and then you can go through each area of that life and set goals to align better in those areas. I hope this little video helps you to refresh your New Year's resolutions a little bit. I know I have to refresh mine a tad, but maybe you can set some SMART goals for yourself and nail down some of those values. And until next time, keep on reflecting.